I created a full-size model of Charles Saatchi. Do you remember when he strangled his wife? Which I thought was a bit of a shit move, and I thought it would be quite funny to take the piss out of him. And so I built a full-size model of him, painted his head red. He had horns, just like the cover of his book, and it had an interactive right arm that would come out, and you could get strangled by it and take a selfie of it. And I had no idea what to do with it, and I sent an email to 3 galleries, one of which was jealous, and the email just said, "Do you want to do something naughty?" There was no pictures, nothing. And Dario was the only one who responded, and he responded within about a minute and a half of me sending it. He didn't know me from Adam, and I said, "Right, I've done this thing with Charles Saatchi." He said, "That's really funny. Can you get it in a van and get it up to Crouch End?" And I did put it in a van, got it up to Crouch End that afternoon, put it in the gallery, and 3 days later I was on holiday in Italy, reading the newspaper, and I had it flick through the Sun, and on page 5 it had the artwork. It was terrifying, but also the most exciting thing I've ever done, because I suddenly thought there might be something in this. I spent a lot of time on eBay, I spent a lot of time on other auction sites. I have a guy in Italy who, he works in a gallery, and I send him artwork that he then sells, and then he sends me piles of maps. I've now got to the stage where I'm getting people on Instagram and email and other, just other messages constantly saying, "My dad has just chucked out, he's just emptied out his loft, or he's got a box full of maps, do you want them?" And I go, "Yes," and I always swap them for a bit of art. So I get them everywhere and anywhere. In fact, I also go to boot fairs, and I'm to a massive flea market in the States. If you like flea markets, I'd recommend going to this one called Brimfield, which is in Boston. It's about 100 miles outside Boston. It's like a 5-day flea market. It actually takes 5 days to get round the whole thing. I went with 2 or 3 friends, came back with a suitcase full of incredible maps, and then needed physiotherapy on my hips because I couldn't walk. Having had 35 years plus in advertising and running various businesses, the one thing that it's very good at is giving me discipline and a work ethic. And so I love kind of knowing what I'm going to be doing. If I'm working with a gallery, working with them, saying this is when it's got to be ready, this is for the show, then it's got to be ready 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month before that, so that it can get framed in time. And I really like having that sort of discipline and that process that allows me to work back from dates. That's something I'm very, very used to. And also, I think, just in thinking about what I do, and obviously my stuff is word-based and image-based, and a lot of that driven by my love for propaganda and trying to use as few words as possible to make a point. I find it very flattering that people think my stuff is worthy enough to steal or to borrow or be inspired by. I've done it in the past. I had a little run-in with Anthony Burrell many years ago, and it happens. I think there's sort of 2 ways of dealing with it. One is you can try and fight them and you can moan and bitch. It's always very difficult when I have corporate companies like Topshop and Savills and ad agencies who lift your work and they use it for their own devices. It's very difficult to win because they've got muscle, they can threaten you with legal action and all that kind of shit. So what I do with them is I just try and embarrass them. I had a big spat with Savills where they took one of my maps with the same sort of words and the same font and same everything, and then just did it for themselves, and I just embarrassed them, and it went on for about 2 weeks, and in the end they got me what I wanted, which was Nando's for 10, and they had to buy one of my prints, which they did. And it was only when a journalist got in touch with me and said, "What the hell's going on?" Because it had just gone mad on Instagram. People were sending me lots of pictures all the time of funny, famous artists that they then plagiarised into being an ad for Savills. So, for example, one was the Wham image that Liechtenstein did, and we just put Full Am on it, and then put the Savills logo on it, and I found it very amusing, and we were having a great laugh doing it. And then this journalist got in touch and said, "How much money do you want?" And I said, "I don't want money. I don't want money. I want Nando's for 10. And I think he thought I was crazy or stupid. or just ridiculous. And so he said, all right, well, I'll get in touch with them. And he got in touch with the ad agency, and because he was from the Standard, they immediately panicked and went, okay, fine, we'll pay you for Nando's. And when we did Nando's, I made it an open invitation. So had a table for 10. 8 people turned up. I had no idea who they were. They just turned up and said, is this where we get free chicken? And I was like, yeah. And we ordered 10 chickens, and we ate them all. After having done 5 very hard years trying to sort of become better at what I did, printing and thinking and create a style and a look and a universe, and then sort of thought, great, I'm ready to step off one escalator and onto another one. And something's pretty exciting actually when you get to my age. I'm 56, and when you get to my age, to be sitting there thinking about a new career when normally, if you're working in advertising and you're 56, you're trying to work out how you can't get fired, which is a sad indictment of the business. And so I was hugely excited about a new business, new career, just diving into something new, full of energy, full of enthusiasm, and really excited about using my creativity. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and that all went to shit. So all the fairs I had, all the potential shows I could have done were all cancelled. But, you know, hey, it's the same for everybody, and I'm sure there's people out there who are suffering worse than me. But the first year, I mean, all right, we're sort of end of August, has been absolutely amazing. I've had real fun. I'm working with nice people. I'm in a great studio. The thing that I love most is that I'm no longer wasting my creativity. In advertising, it's a kind of colouring in exercise most of the time. You're being told what to do by various other people. You then have to come up with an idea, or hundreds of ideas, of which you throw away 99% of them, and then you take that one idea that everybody half likes, and you have to drag it over the Grand National of meetings and fences and courses just to try and be given the privilege of making something absolutely shit after about a year. And I like being an artist because it's really creative. I can come up with an idea in the morning, and it's quick. I can come up with an idea in the morning, I can go and print it, and I can be selling it before lunch. And I find that absolutely invigorating. For me, like I said, I'm 56, I'm running out of time. I think it's only a few years before I'm going to be mental. And so the idea of being able to produce a lot of stuff very quickly is amazing and very, very, very exciting. Lockdown, I think, was a bit of a gift for a lot of people. I mean, it was horrendous. I caught the virus. Ironically, I caught the virus at an art fair selling masks with gels that said no snogging. Got one of them here. And I printed like 900 of them. And I think I was sick when I was printing them, because I've met a few people who said, oh yeah, we got one of those masks, and then we caught the virus straight afterwards. I've got to say, it was the worst thing I've ever had, and when I was 14 I actually died, and it was worse than that. But I think when I came out of the sickness, and then I had that sort of 2-week self-quarantine, I was stuck indoors, sweating bullets, didn't know what I was doing for 5 weeks. When I came out, the lockdown had happened, and I was really quite down about everything, because I sort of assumed that if people are fighting over toilet paper, they're not going to be really wanting to do anything with art, and they're certainly not going to be wanting to buy any art. But what I did was that classic bloke thing of, rather than worrying about stuff that you can't really control, is just bury your head in work. And I just went into the studio and just kept printing. I did a lot of free stuff. I thought one of the roles of an artist is to lift people's spirits, so I did a lot of free keep your chin up prints that were just a bit of fun, really, but it was just, I wasn't going to charge for them, but I didn't want to post them. So if you sent me a stamped addressed envelope, I would send you a print and you could put it in your window. And it was just a bit of fun, really, to try and recognise that everybody was a little bit shit scared, and maybe sometimes having a voice in your head that sort of says, come on, it's going to be fine, just keep your chin up. And I really enjoyed doing that, and I've got to say, I love, that sort of taps back into the relationship I had with Jealous very early on, which is, if you can create art that sort of sits in the zeitgeist, I think it becomes that much more ownable and that much more powerful. And so I've got to say, I was very, very creative during lockdown. It was probably the most creative period I've had. Charming Baker, I've got two of his pieces. I'm lucky enough to have a couple of those pieces, and one of which is the big panda head, which I absolutely adore, printed onto plywood, and it's just such a nice, bold piece. And I don't think I've got a massive collection. I've got some. I still tend to sort of buy things that I really like rather than things that I think are going to be worth a huge amount of money in the future. I think I've kind of lucked out with a lot of the Charming Baker stuff because obviously his stuff's becoming more valuable, but I just really like it. I've got one of his elephant heads and with flock wallpaper as well, and I just love it. Got a kind of really nice Rachel Howard, which is just a sort of paintbrush drawing almost of a nice bum with a bit of bush. And I love that as well. My most recent purchase would probably be this piece here, actually. It was something that I bought at an art fair, and we were having one of those days where it was basically shit, and nobody was there. And I know when you're having a shit day, the last thing you should be doing is spending any money. But this woman was next to me, and I just love that. It reminds me of when I go down to the beach down at Canberra Sands, and there's something about that kind of the green dunes, and I just really liked it. It just reminded me a lot of stuff, and I thought it'd be a nice thing to do as well, and buy it off her. So I did. I think I was hoping that 2020 would be the most exciting year in my life. Looking back, I think I will probably look back and think it was an incredibly shit year for everybody, but it was also a very formative year for me in my career, because I think it's been amazing so far. I have no complaints. Obviously things like doing fairs and doing shows would have been amazing, and it's frustrating when you can't do those things. But I've had an amazing year, and it's kind of, I hope it will be the foundation. 2020 will be the really hard-earned foundation for the next 10 years of my career. I think I'm 56. I think I've probably got another 10 years before I'm peeing in my pants and biting people for no apparent reason. And so I've got a bit of work to do. 2021, I'm hoping that there's going to be some fairs. I'm hoping that I'll be doing the other art fair in Brooklyn, which will be exciting, that was supposed to happen in March this year. I've got some really nice work for that, which is currently sitting in a framers in Brooklyn somewhere. I hope that it's not rolled, because it's going to be very hard to frame flat. But hopefully I'll have some more shows, have some more fairs, and sort of trying to explore a few different things. So I've got sort of the established work that I've been doing on maps and with the typography, but also trying to do a little bit more three-dimensional typography, kind of using wooden letters and sticking them up around the East End. And I'm just hoping more of the same. I don't really know. I mean, it's one of those sort of odd ones. The virus has sort of kind of throws everything out. All of your sort of ambitions and your plans get chucked out of the window. I'm basically like an overweight goldfish at the minute, where I get up in the morning, I swim about for a bit, and then I go to bed and I forget what happened today, and I just concentrate on what's likely to happen tomorrow. I have no idea further than that. And so my only ambition is just to hope that I still continue to come up with ideas, and hope that I can still continue to make them, and then hope that I can still continue to sell them in galleries, and that'll do. Cream egg or Jaffa cake? Wow. I mean, two of my favourite meals, and I think they are meals. I would say both. I'm going to be really difficult, but I would put a cream egg. I would jam the cream egg into the soft jelly of the Jaffa cake, and then drop it in the same way that a seal would eat a fish. Wouldn't even touch the sides.